Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have the Shaggy dog. This is one of the old school classics of Disney, uh, early Disney era. This is from 1959. It's in black and white, although you may forget that after a while. Though the promotional images here look like it's in color, it's not. It's in black and white, and it stars Mickey Mouse Club darling Annette Funicello, although she's barely in it, but she's arguably the biggest Disney star in this at the time, beyond why can't I say his name? Yeah, Fred McMurray. Fred McMurray makes appears in a ton of stuff, especially in this era. So it takes place, I'm guessing, in the 50s. It's post war. It's suburbia. It looks like the Universal lot here in Hollywood, well, Studio City, but it's Burbank, whatever. It's in that area. That's just what it looks like, and that studio lot has been used for so many shows and movies over the years. If you've been there, you know it's a lot. But yeah, 1959 is an hour and 42 minutes. Of course, it's a comedy. It's about a boy who turns into a dog. If it's a serious film, then there's something wrong. Although there is a really big, like, super spy backstory to all this, where it's not just a boy who's like struggling. It's not like Teen Wolf where he's dealing with, it's a metaphor for puberty or whatever. And, I don't know, but it's a boy who suddenly gets a hold of an ancient artifact, a ring, and he reads the Latin on the inside, and it transforms him into a dog. And there's actually a lot of backstory to it, to why that happens. And it's not like he's a were-dog or a werewolf kind of thing. It's all due to the ring, and he doesn't keep the ring. And the guy who's curating the museum or taking care of the artifacts doesn't seem weirdly surprised at talking to a dog who happens to be a boy that used to deliver his papers. He's an eccentric old man. It's just strange. Speaking of the boys, you'll know Tommy Kirk and Kevin Corcoran as the brothers. They play brothers in a number of different. Well, at least one other thing in the Swiss Family Robinson. Tommy Kirk's at least in Babes in Toyland, and gosh, I'm blanking on a bunch of the others. But these boys pretty much grew up making Disney films, so it's pretty much, you'll recognize them. If you've seen one Disney film, odds are you've seen them in this. If you see this one, you've seen them in others. So there's also Tim Considine as Buzz, the slimy best friend of what's his name? Plays Tommy Kirk's Wilby. Wilby, okay. They have children named Wilby and Moochie, and I think Moochie is short for Montgomery or something. Wilby and Moochie. I realize it's the 50s, but who names? I mean, of course, the kids would have been born in the 40s, like boomers, post-war boomers, right? Yeah, kids right there. But holy cow, that is some, like, hey, you know what? I just got back from the war in Europe. Let's make some weirdly named babies. So, though I don't get the idea that Fred McMurray's character was in the war, but it's still close enough to the era where anybody who got out of there alive and could buy a house for $27, it seems like it, was doing all right. Fred McMurray's character is the dad who he hates dogs, and so that should make him a horrible character in the first place. But it's played for comedy, of course, because then his son becomes a dog. Then he chases after him with a shotgun. If that's how you know this is 1959, if somebody in suburbia started running around the backyards of their homes firing a shotgun at a local dog, or for any reason, yeah, the cops would be swarming the place, especially white suburbia. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, it's the movie is fun. It's light. You can't think too much about it. The effects are kind of funny because they have a puppet dog, so they actually move its mouth, and it looks fairly realistic if you don't look too closely, and they don't shoot it for too long at a certain angle. it's sometimes the real dog. Uh, it's a sheepdog, and which helps hide a lot of details. If it was like a Doberman or something like that, or just like one of those racing dogs. Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of it. But if it wasn't so hairy that couldn't hide so much in its and what it was. So yeah, he's a puppet sometimes. He's a guy in a dog suit, and there's actually a joke at one point where this cop keeps seeing Wilby as the dog. You know, says hi to the officer, and another time he sees him using the payphone, and the cop thinks he's going crazy, and he keeps. Eventually, he comes face to face with the dog, and he has to talk to him. He's like, "Oh, I'm just wearing a dog suit." He's like, "Oh, then take it off." Well, of course, Wilby can't, but there is a point where there is a man in a dog suit jumping onto a boat. Yes, there's a big chase at the end, a car, and technically a boat chase, although there's just one boat. But there's a fight on a boat between the dog and some men. And there's a French teenage girl who becomes the object of best friends' desires between Wilby and Buzz, leaving in the beautiful Annette Funicello, letting her hang out to dry. That just doesn't seem right. They're both like, Buzz is the lady killer, and Wilby is the guy who wants to date a girl but is kind of shy, and he's more about his rockets and science and stuff, his experiments that he has in his basement. Like when we first meet Wilby, he's in the basement and he has built a rocket for some reason and lit it, and that's like a smart thing, and it blasts through the house like nothing. Like, oh shoot, we're gonna just let's just blast through 2-3 floors of the home. Yeah, you're in trouble, young man. And then they're up on the roof, roped to a chimney, patching the holes. Some of it's fairly ridiculous, but it's 1959, and I gotta kind of wonder when it comes. This is not even just about the film; it's just about life in general. The mating practices of teenagers in 1950s. Man, I mean, between Buzz treating these women as objects that he just wants to acquire and swap and everything else, and they're just things to him. he's what, 14? I don't know, 15? I have no idea. But these girls just, like, they forget Annette Funicello, and then the new French girl who has the dog, which causes all the problems. By the way, when Wilby turns into the dog, the other dog disappears, which is convenient because then there's not two dogs to be confused by. But something makes me think that what if that's another person who's trapped in the form of a dog? And do they just cease to exist? It wouldn't have been more interesting if the person who was the dog suddenly transformed back into a human for the first time in years, and just like, like he's older, maybe he's just the same age as he was before. I don't know. That would have been freakier. That would have been like a horror film in a sense, where he's just been like forced to live in the form of a dog for his entire, for years at a time, but of course be under the affections of a pretty girl that whole time. I don't know. Of course, Wilby's first kiss is from Francesca, the very pretty French girl, but just on the forehead. They get strings to make his ears pop up to show that he's in love. So, but yeah, it all works out in the end, and I guess it opens it up for the Shaggy DA sequel where I guess we saw Shaggy DA. Again, there's a number of years between these that I can't remember if they're actually closely connected or not. And we watched it as part of the series. It's been a while. I can't remember how that went. But yeah, it's... And by the way, this is not to be confused with the Tim Allen Shaggy Dog film, which I don't know. I don't know if it is on here yet, or it will be. I'm not sure. There's probably some inappropriate stuff on there. I have no idea. It's Disney, so it can't be that inappropriate, right? Anyway, one of the fun things that found in this, it hit me immediately, and it made me miss Disneyland even more, is the fact that the whole subplot with the government agency and there's spies and like rocket plans or so, I don't know, whatever it is. It doesn't make much sense, but it's part of that whole Cold War era kind of paranoia. Wilby discovers something that Francesca's dad is involved with, and it's fairly criminal, I suppose. And they don't pay attention to him because he's in the form of a dog. And when they finally convince the police that, or the government, that what they're saying it has any validity, like Section 32 or whatever, which is supposed to be like a secret organization, I guess. One of the people that interviews Fred McMurray, the dad, is Paul Frees. And if you know who Paul Frees is, he is the voice you hear throughout Disneyland, but primarily for me, he's the voice you hear in the Haunted Mansion. So yeah, it was kind of goosebumpy just to see him physically on screen playing the psychologist. So when you see him being somebody interviewing dad and trying to figure out, what the psychology is behind thinking that his son is a dog, well, that's Paul Frees. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, I think we covered that. This is one of those old classics that, to sum it up, that yeah, you should probably check out, but it's not like it's a must-have film. It's a snapshot. It's a product of its time, and it definitely should be checked out if you're interested in seeing what a Disney movie looked like back in that time, and how it reflects the culture of the time, teenage culture, the house. I mean, one of the weird things beyond naming your kids weird things, Moochie, and how they get that out of Montgomery or something, I have no idea. But like the Francesca and her dad move into a house next door, but when you go inside, it looks like this ornate, lots of hardwood everywhere. I know it's a set. It's obviously a set. All the houses are sets inside, but the exteriors are actually on a street, on a movie set in Hollywood here. But inside, it just does not match the outside. And they also have a servant, a manservant, who is in charge of wrangling the dog and making tea and everything else. They're very European. But it's just a weird thing. That's the only thing that really bothered me. Because that's not a suburban house. I'm sorry. You've literally just walked into the mansion in The Sound of Music or something. It doesn't work. Anyway, let's pick tomorrow's episode.
235.
235. I need to hear you say it. And if you're slow on that, it makes me think you're not well. All right. Well, tomorrow should be easy. 235 is a short. And it stars Donald Duck. And it's called Let's Stick Together. All right. That's easy enough. I don't know how old it is. I don't know if it's one of the really old ones or something more new, but more than likely one of the old ones. Let's Stick Together, starring Donald Duck on the next Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that. Bye.